Hey there, it's Dr. Andrea. Welcome to another episode of Liberate Your Authentic Self. So, when you think about the things that could block you from living at your fullest, your most vibrant, your most kick-ass self, what are the things that come to mind that might block you? Well, I can tell you that for me, as a parent, the one thing I want to protect the most in my daughter is her spirit. I want her to always feel like she is free to grow, explore, yes, make mistakes occasionally, but always get back up. So I wonder, what about you? Is there anything that could, I don't know, knock you off your game or rob you of your joy or kill your spirit? Well, stick around because I have someone who is going to inspire you. At least he inspires me, and everyone that I've ever talked to who knows this gentleman, they've said the same thing. I'm talking about James R. Nowlin, and he is the author of a new book called The Purposeful Millionaire. And when you see his smiling face, you're going to be like, oh my God, this guy is amazing, and he's so poised and articulate, and he's so positive all the dang time. And yet, he's someone who actually endured, again, what I think would be the greatest crime to our spirit, and that is both witnessing and receiving violence at home. Welcome to Liberate Your Authentic Self with Dr. Andrea Pennington, the prescription for living your life out loud. Childhood trauma is like the biggest thing that typically knocks us off our game. And many of us find that what we experienced in our childhood, and even what we may have witnessed in our childhood, can make us feel like we need to play small, live small, crawl into a box, and hide. So, if that happened to you, what do you do to crawl out of that box? Well, I'm not going to keep you in any further suspense because James R. Nowlin is a survivor of really a childhood that was riddled with both domestic violence and alcoholism. And again, when you see him today, you're like, he's the CEO and founder of an executive consulting firm that's called Excel Global Partners. And he's like kicking ass and taking names. His big mission is really to empower people to tap into their own divine power and master the self so that everything else in your life can fall into place. James, it is wonderful, as always, to connect with you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Andrea.
So I want to just dig in because we've talked a lot, and we're always talking about the now because you've just launched this book. You're doing speaking engagements. You're flying all over the place. But I want to just take it back a little bit. And if you would, just tell us a little bit about some of the childhood. We don't have to go all into depth, but I want us to really set the stage for how miraculous it is that you were here smiling and kicking ass in life.
So first I'll say thank you for having me on the show, Andrea. Anytime a child goes through any kind of trauma where he or she sees one parent physically hit the other parent, there's something psychologically that changes within that child's mind. For me, starting as early as the age of 4 years old, I witnessed domestic violence in my house. The domestic violence was fueled by alcoholism on the part of my father. And also, one of the challenges of not really loving himself. And it wasn't until I became an adult that I realized, the man really didn't love himself. He was more concerned about what other people thought outside the four walls of our house than how he treated the people within our home. For my earliest memory, and this is still something that's planted in my head, I remember my father physically attacking my mother outside of our home in rural Virginia in the driveway. And he had his hands around her neck and he was hitting her in the face.
And how old were you? How old
I was
were
4
you?
years, about 4 years old, about 4 years old. And my sister and I were standing there and we were throwing gravel at him to get off of our mom. It was like a pit bull attacking an innocent human being. Now, my mom's a really gentle soul. She has her own type of power, but she's not one to fight. And she didn't grow up in a family in which she had to physically fight. So he attacked her. And this is something that didn't just happen one time, but it happened over the 17 years in which I was in that house. He also physically attacked me. And my state of alarm, my state of fight or flight was constantly in flight from this man because I knew the harm that he could do.
Yeah.
Not only was he physically aggressive in our household, but he, even in his 30s and 40s, was known to ruffle the feathers of coworkers. He would be very charming around women, very charming around people who he wanted to respect him for his material accomplishments, his financial accomplishments. However, if somebody disagreed with him, it was like a light switch going off. What happened, Andrea, and I talk about, things not happening to me, but happening for me, but it taught me how to read people. If I misinterpreted my father's temper, or if I misinterpreted, how much alcohol he had drank or anything, I risked being physically abused or emotionally abused. That blessing of knowing how to read people blessed me a lot in business. And, I am not angry or bitter about my childhood. I learned to release that a long time ago, and we'll talk about some of the things that I actually put into play for that. But I am so grateful that the universe blessed me with circumstances to come out on the other side wiser, stronger, more confident. And eventually, that childhood that I had, as rough as it was, created somebody who would go on to be a loving, kind, gentle man and a purposeful millionaire, and the author of that book, and a worldwide speaker, and somebody who's giving back to help others find their life of purpose.
Well, it's remarkable. I mean, it truly is remarkable. And I'm always saying that people who have endured or witnessed abuse, getting to the point that you are now, and that is the point of being able to say, not only have I forgiven, but I consider it a blessing. That one always takes me a minute to get my head around. But before we go there, I just want to get a sense, though, James, because yes, of course, you did learn to read your dad, and that has been a blessing to you later. But I want to know, how did that affect you as a child? Did you feel like you got to still be a kid, or were you always kind of, checking and making sure that you weren't going to tick him off, you weren't going to push him over the edge?
So the answer to that is no, Andrea. I didn't have much of a childhood. And my mom will tell you that when I came into this earth, it was almost as if I was a grown man when I got here. I was the responsible kid. I would hang out with adults. I would have adult conversations. I would ask lots and lots of questions. I was just a different being. In some ways, I was kind of a spiritual stranger to my family. But in other ways, I realized that my mission from the age of birth until 17 was to be a protector for my mom. And when I left home for college at the age of 17 and I said goodbye to my mom and they drove away, I had a really difficult time the first couple of months in college because I thought that by leaving home to go to college, I was abandoning my mom and that she would be dead by Christmas.
Yeah, but
Those were some of the psychological.
That's like heavy, heavy stuff
It
to
was
carry.
heavy.
Now, yes, as an adult, you might say, okay, my soul chose this and, this was my purpose in life. But as a kid, that's really heavy. And did you also have to protect your sister? Where was she in the mix of all of this? Is she older or younger?
I don't speak on my sister's behalf about her experience. She witnessed some of the same drama that I did, but because I was a boy, because I was different, I got the brunt of the abuse. She was treated a little bit differently. She's got her own story that she's welcome to share, but she was right there witnessing it. One thing that I made sure that I did in crafting my story and living a purposeful life is that I made sure that I did not get stuck, because the trauma of experiencing that type of violence from one's formative years all the way through being a teenager puts a lot of psychological blockages in one's mind. There can be a lot of weeds there, so I purposefully sought the psychological services. I purposefully sought the mental clearing and the resources that I needed to make sure that I could live up to my highest standard.
Now, when did that start for you? Did that start in college or was it before?
That first year of college, I started to kind of watch and emulate people just by looking at how they interacted with their families.
Yeah.
And I remember, eavesdropping on telephone conversations and hearing kids interact with their parents, and I would see their parents show up. And I thought, wow, they're really functional. They're talking to each other really nicely. They don't
Yeah.
resent one another. And
I
I started
remember
bringing these.
reading that in the book. It was like, wow, they get off the phone and they say, I love you.
They say
Wait.
I love you and all these other wonderful things. So I brought that practice into my household when I talked to my mom. When we ended conversations, I said, well, Mom, we're on the phone. This is one of the things that I've learned. It's so important to say I love you at the end of telephone conversations. So we actually started that practice during my first year of college. And that was just by watching others who I saw as more functional than myself. I thought I want to be like those guys one day because it sure does seem, nice, and it seems sustainable, and it seems so respectful, because there was this kind of closed energy that the family had. And I was working on opening up that energy so that we could communicate and honor one another, honor the existence, honor the love that was there, because we were survivors. The three of us, my mom, my sister, and myself, there was a triangle of people who had witnessed such horrifying instances where we needed to communicate and where we needed to show how much we loved each other. But it first started with actions, and then it started with reiterating that by saying, I love you. 3 very powerful words.
Yeah, incredibly powerful. So tell me a little bit about how you got to the point of forgiveness. And do you speak to your father today?
I don't. I believe in when you see trouble coming across the street. I have
Mm-hmm.
prayed for his redemption, and I was super, super hopeful a few years ago that he had become a different person, more loving, more kind, more gentle. He found himself in jail for a short amount of time with a domestic violence incident with his second wife.
Uh,
He has since remarried to his third wife. That wedding took place a couple of weeks ago. But I choose to stay away. And just because somebody's related to me by blood doesn't mean that I have to spend time with them. I'm in such a great place right now with the universe and with honoring the circumstances that my father's saboteur presented to me in my life, that I don't need to spend time with him. I can honor his presence as my father apart from him.
well, yeah, and the other thing that you've said is that you can look at your childhood as a blessing. And
Yes.
obviously, The Purposeful Millionaire is a very insightful and spiritual book. So, do you feel like it really was part of a divine plan to get
Oh,
you to
yeah.
where you are today? So I
Yes.
would imagine that does
Yes.
help significantly with getting to a point of forgiveness, and also again to actually be grateful that you've had that experience that has now
Yes.
prepared you for kicking ass in business, being able to read other people and make negotiation almost seem effortless. But what other things did you put in place to get to that point of forgiveness? And did you ever feel damaged, you yourself?
For anybody who's survived abuse, one must understand that abusers are incredibly powerful manipulators. They can ruin your self-esteem. They can make you feel as if you were the problem. They can reject you, and then they can come back into your life in a really wonderful, loving way that makes the psyche kind of try to forget some of the horrible things that person put you through. And my father, being the master manipulator that he actually is, did that on a number of occasions. And I saw him doing that magic work on my mom, where really that person has such power to make you believe that you are the problem, that, it can ruin every bit of self-esteem that you have. Now, I want to fast forward a couple of years, Andrea, to my coming out in law school as a gay American man. There was some discussion, some rejection, all those things. But my circumstances, my disruptions, my rejections in life have served me. My childhood served me, and it prepared me for the person that I am today. I'm grateful for all of those things because now at 36, I've got the experience and the breakthroughs and the grounding to navigate really turbulent waters and to also avoid future turbulent waters. And that's based on experience, which brought wisdom. So I got to a place of release and forgiveness when I really realized that the universe wasn't making these things happen to me, and that these things weren't horrible per se, but they were preparing me for greatness. Now, I feel that my life is just beginning. There is so much that I have to offer to the rest of the world in terms of helping other people with their breakthroughs, finding their purposefulness, finding their highest potential, that I look forward to each and every day. And if I had not forgiven Andrea, I would have been stuck, and there would be no Purposeful Millionaire. There would be no substantive speeches. There would be no breakthroughs with clients and helping people to transform themselves. All these things blessed me. They blessed me. They blessed me. And I use them as a tool to advance myself and to advance others. But it boils down to this. Number one, you've got to be authentic and you've got to be honest about your story. You've got to be able to release those things because secrets don't serve you. What secrets do is they eat you up on the inside. And I've been able to witness family members who buried these secrets because my father or someone else required them to push those secrets down in their gut or way back in the back of their psyche to say, I wasn't abused. That didn't happen to me. Or don't you bring that up. And what I see is these people's spirits being eaten alive, where my light is shining even brighter because I'm sharing what I've gone through, and what other people can go through and come out of, they're burying it. And they're living slow deaths. Yeah. They're really living slow deaths.
It's so, so true. And, I'm glad that you're saying this because I share with many of the authors that we publish at Make Your Mark Global that you are going to personally get free by sharing your story. But it's also going to bless so many other people because we do live in a culture where we keep secrets. And if that family culture has been one of suppression, denial, and hiding, it does get to the point where that energy eats away at us. Now, James, in the Purposeful Millionaire, you're not only helping us become purposeful millionaires ourselves, but again, you went deep and you shared your personal story. So before we get into some of these 52 beautiful pearls of wisdom, is what I think of them as, let's just fast forward to this year, because it was this year that you released the book. And coming out with your story about being abused, that's going to have some ramifications. It's one thing if you tell a few people in an audience. It's a whole other thing when you launch a book that now is a #1 bestseller on Amazon, floating around the world. So have there been any repercussions from you sharing so publicly and openly?
There have been, but I was prepared for that. They were truths that I already knew. They were things where I know that the best thing that abusers want is for you to keep a secret, because if that happens, they have power over you. When you bring light to the secret that they wanted you to keep, that abuser no longer has any power. One of the repercussions is that, my mom is a beautiful, amazing woman. And I thought that she was prepared for this, but I don't think that she was fully prepared for this. It was hard to see her go through some of the psychological challenges that she did once the book came out. She had read the book well in advance. I thought that she was in a place of confidence. But when something happens, like someone gives you a phone call and somebody says, "Girl, I didn't know that happened to you," even though, people knew. People in my little hometown of Lynchburg, Virginia knew what we were going through to some extent, but they didn't know the entire story. And they didn't know that somebody would come out and write a best-selling book partially about that. It's just one chapter in the book. It's just a few paragraphs in the book. But somebody would bring light to that experience. So,
your mom works with you in your company, the company that you founded.
She's amazing.
So has that created drama on the workplace?
Not really. We keep a drama-free workplace. We're a work hard, play hard kind of environment. And at the end of the day, we serve our clients and we serve at the mercy of our clients. So the business was in no ways put at risk, but there are certain things that you've got to navigate. And when you do those things for somebody that you love, you show overwhelming love and you show grace, and you don't show resentment because that person is in a different stage of their process than I am. I love her and accept her for where she is in her process. I'm praying for a breakthrough one day. I'm praying for all the things that have been buried, all the things that affect the gut, because when you put a secret into your body, it goes down into the gut, and your gut's your power center. that affects everything. It affects your psyche. It affects neurotransmission in the brain. It affects all those things, the toxicity of the blood, all those things. I believe that there will be a breakthrough one day because she's a powerful, loving woman. And I also believe that there will be a radical rejection of any future communications with the abuser. I think that there's going to be a light that just goes off above her one day where God is working through her and for her as a powerful voice for justice in domestic violence. When that happens, I don't know. It might be a week from now. It might be 30 years from now. However, I know that there will be a light shine on her in a way that has never been shined before because I took the risk of putting the secret out there. It's my story. It's what I went through. I own it. But Andrea, I know one thing for true. As I'm liberated, it helps to liberate other people. As we bring our secrets to light, other people can identify in us and they find their power too. I have no regrets whatsoever about sharing my story, what I survived and what I went through. If the outcome is that it helps to liberate somebody else, fantastic. If the outcome is that that person has to really face some demons to get to the light, then that's also fine.
Well, y'all, there you have it. You might have to face some demons on your path to the light. Well, coming up in our next segment, I am going to ask James to really take us back to another moment of awakening. And you don't want to miss this one because this one involves a near-death experience. That's right. If it wasn't dramatic enough, his childhood, just, several years ago, he nearly lost his life. So stick around. Tune in daily to get fired up with insight and inspiration for purposeful living, conscious relationships, and soulful success. You're watching Liberate Your Authentic Self with me, Dr. Andrea Pennington. Check out the live version of this show where I answer your questions in real time. Visit facebook.com/Dr. Andrea Pennington. So, we've made it through our turbulent childhood. We've even found the strength to claim our life as our own, rejecting any of the drama and trauma of the past and embracing a bright future. And that's exactly what James R. Nowlin did. He has founded a wonderful company that's in the global sphere, kicking ass, making millions. In his recent book, The Purposeful Millionaire, he explains a little bit of the troubled past, but he also provides inspiration that all of us can take to heart to creating a purposeful life. And yeah, maybe making some millions along the way. James, I'm really grateful that you're so open and so honest with us. And something you said just a minute ago was your past prepared you for some turbulent waters. Those were your words. So I want to jump into, part of the story that you share also in the book, which for me, as you know, I've also had a near-death-like experience. But fortunately, I was just by the water. I wasn't in the water. Can you take us back to August, 2012?
August 25th, 2012. And in fact, Andrea, the 5th anniversary of my accident is coming up this year. So I plan on doing something special with my spouse, and we're going to be in Hawaii to celebrate the 5th anniversary of that accident, which I actually call my 5th birthday. But to go back to August 25th, 2012, Andrea, I had achieved what most people would call a life of great success. I had all the material trappings and financial trappings of success, the house, the cars, the travel, the flashy friends, all those things. One day, August 25th, a buddy of mine had flown down from New England to hang out with me in Dallas, which is where I formerly live, and we traveled out to my lake house. And he, my friend, is a former sea shepherd, and sea shepherds save whales, and they swim in really cold waters, and they're very skilled swimmers. And I'm a former triathlete. So we hop into our kayaks at the lake house, and we go out to the middle of the lake. And lo and behold, we don't bring life jackets with us because we're cocky and we're gifted swimmers. Yeah, so a freak storm comes out of nowhere, a really bad storm and high winds. The temperature changed outside about 20 degrees in just a few minutes, and the lake turned into a washing machine. Now we had little cheap lake kayaks, and they filled up with water and they sank. My kayak was the first to sink, and I tried to save it and shovel water out of it with my hands, but that didn't work. And I ended up trying to pull a very, very heavy kayak out of the water. And that's something that, from a physics perspective, just doesn't work. I exhausted myself, and a large wave came and actually inhaled a large amount of water onto my lungs. I was in really bad shape. My friend Tyler was not in as bad shape because his kayak sank after mine. He had not inhaled water on his lungs, but he had to make the life or death decision to leave me in the water to go get help. Now, if you've ever been to East Texas, the lakes are gigantic. They look like little oceans. We're out in the middle of a lake, and we're probably a half a mile to a mile to shore.
Wow.
When Tyler left me that night, I had assumed that I was saying goodbye to him forever. Either he would make it, or I would make it, or neither one of us would make it. Luckily, Tyler made it to shore. He had neighbors dial 911, and a neighbor had a jet ski. He and his son and Tyler piled onto the jet ski, and fortunately, they drove over a half a mile into the middle of this lake and found my body. I was not drowning. I was not flailing my arms. I'd actually drowned, and I'd gone under. And when they found me, it was because a wave had popped my head out of the water, and they saw that with the flashlight. They were in the right spot at the right time to find my body. Now, during that time, Andrea, it was as if I was in a helicopter with a spotlight watching my body being rescued.
Wow.
Complete out-of-body experience. Or if I were in the clouds and God was shining a light down on my body. I remember everything about it, including them pulling my naked body out of the water onto the back of a jet ski, and then me falling off, going back into the water with no ability to swim at all because I was unconscious. They pulled a big 6-foot tall, 165-pound man whose lungs were filled with water out of the lake for a second time and got me to shore. By the time they got me to shore, an ambulance was there and paramedics were there waiting for me, and they did their work to bring me back.
Whew. It's dramatic. Just knowing that, first I want to be like, boy, don't you go out there with no life jacket.
Nothing.
Okay,
We brought nothing.
Yeah,
Not even an inflatable life jacket.
I'm going to get over that for a hot
Yeah.
second. But tell me, so even when Tyler was swimming away, because you told me before that you couldn't even see the shore. So you
No.
really did think that this was goodbye. Like you just felt like it was over. So when you mentioned that when you were pulled out and they got you to shore, the paramedics came and someone was there saying, he ain't got a pulse, shock him. Now you were outside your body, you were not yet fully conscious, but you remember her saying that, right?
I remember a lady screaming, shock him, shock him, shock him. Tyler is also a medical doctor, and we had some medically trained people around him. I mean, this was a small town, so there were dozens of people surrounding my body when I was rescued, and the paramedics were there doing their work. But because I was in that out-of-body state and I was witnessing everything that was going on, when I heard that lady scream, shock him, shock him, shock him, and she was in a state of panic, I realized that my heart had not stopped, so I came to. I vomited a tremendous amount of lake water. Tyler, to this day, tells me, I can't believe that the human lungs could hold that capacity of water.
God.
It just kept coming out more and more and more out of your body. But I knew that my heart had not stopped, so I came to.
That is just an intense will to live. So how long were you in the hospital? How long did it take you to recover?
So fortunately for me, they were able to get me to the hospital very quickly after that, and I recovered relatively quickly. However, I did not have an infection of the lungs, and that was a true blessing. The main issue was, with this dirty water that's coming on your lungs, do you have an infection? Tons of x-rays, all that stuff run. I was okay. Recovery time. Because I had gone without oxygen, I did have some brain damage, which limited my vocabulary, limited my ability to not tell the same joke 20 times each day and to think that everybody would laugh at it. But also when you suffer certain types of brain damage, you think that you're funny. And I was not in a state of sadness or depression. I was in a little bit of a state of hysteria.
Really?
Yeah, and it was like being around, you know, your 100-year-old great grandmother who kind of repeats herself all the time. I kept asking my family again and again and again, "Where's Katie? Where's Katie? Where's Katie?" Katie was our dog at the time. She's since passed away due to old age, but I kept asking them about Katie all the time, and they're like, "When is this boy going to stop asking about Katie? Katie's fine. She was not in the boat with you that evening. The dog is okay." So it did take me some time to come to. Also, I had been screaming help for so long that night that I did severe damage to my vocal cords. It took a couple of weeks for my vocal cords to heal. Also, the lactic acid buildup in my body took
Mm.
a couple of weeks to actually get out of my body and for me to stop walking as if I were Frankenstein. So there was some pain involved, but also the blessing of having just a little bit of brain damage was that the suffering from a psychological perspective just was not there. It was kind of a happy, kind of hysterical, "Where's Katie? Tell the same joke 20 times a day" type circumstance.
Unbelievable. Oh my gosh. So fast forward a little bit. When you did start getting back kind of your mental functioning, one of the things that you noticed was that you were not living 100% purposeful
Yeah.
life. Yes, you had this kick-ass business and the house and all of that. But how did that drowning experience and coming back change the way you look at your business and at your life?
It woke me up. And I'll say from a scale of 1 to 10 in terms of happiness, prior to the accident, I was living a 5 to 8. After the accident, I did the work to examine my life under a microscope, looking at the relationships, the people that I had in my life, the clients I had in my life, the thoughts that I had about wealth, the thoughts that I had from a poverty consciousness standpoint, where things equal success versus options, happiness, travel, good people, and experiences equal success. There was a radical shift that began to take place. Now, I want to be really specific when I say this, Andrea. That is, when I transitioned to a different place during my accident, I experienced nirvana. It was a place of nothing but euphoria. Um, it was as if a warm blanket were wrapped around me. There were beautiful lights. It was just an amazing experience of peace that I had never experienced before. For 3 years after the accident, I struggled to find my purpose on this earth, and I took antidepressants. I took Wellbutrin, and I also took Prozac, and I just thought that chemically things were off, and probably they were off, and I might have needed those antidepressants to some certain extent, but I was still lacking purpose in my life.
Mm.
So I would pray, God, please. There's so much to offer this world. There's so much that I have to give this world. Help me to find my purpose. So a couple of years ago, I decided to go cold turkey off of the antidepressants. I just stopped taking them. And I further did the work to excavate what was really holding me back.
Mm.
And the honest answer is I had to redefine the word success. And I had to get rid of certain people in my life because some people make deposits and some people make withdrawals. There were a lot of people making withdrawals in my life. I relocated from Dallas to Austin, Texas, which is a fantastic place to live. And by the way, Austin is full, and we're having population control problems here. So
So nobody
just
can
because
come back.
yeah, nobody can come here. You can visit, but you can't stay.
Okay.
But I made conscientious decisions to change my life, to change my environment, and to jettison some of the things that were not working for me. And during that time, I realized that, wow, I'm starting to feel better. Each day on a scale of 1 to 10 is an 8 to 10. Some days we're an 11. I am feeling awesome. I have done the
Mm.
work. I've started rituals. I'm starting to put 52 rules into play. And I began writing The Purposeful Millionaire because I wanted to share that journey and that self-mastery work that I did on myself from that near-death accident to share it with others so that they too would not have to go through a near-death accident in order to find their purpose. I became awakened.
Wow. And I can so relate to your experience of going from nirvana
Hmm.
to, okay, what's my purpose? Why am I here? Wait, I've just come from ultimate love, bliss, joy, happiness, total acceptance to, yeah, to that
Yeah.
low. I experienced some of that, and like you, my entire life and my entire business has completely transformed
Yes.
since my near-death-like experience. Now, so let's talk about some of these rituals that you've put in place, because it sounds like, we all kind of wake up to realize we can get on a hamster wheel chasing after what society says is success, or what our family kind of programmed us to do, and we do it. We all do it. We try to get that job, and then we get that degree, and then we get that job, and then we get that house, and we're on a hamster wheel, or we become slaves to the machine. But one of the things that I love about your sense of ritual is that you realize you got to bring it back within. Find
Yes.
your sense of success, not looking to the world, but really going within and say, what is my purpose? What is my success? And
Yes.
creating that ritual that gets you off the world-based hamster wheel and into your own divine sort of cycle. So talk to me about some of these personal habits and these ritual that you say contribute to your success.
Well, the first thing is understanding that the physical body is connected to the spiritual body. You've got to be a believer in mind, body, spirit, and doing the work on all three. That means to me that I've got to get into the ritual of caring for James first before I can care for anybody else.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that's really tough when you're a business owner and you're caring for clients and they're putting food on your table as well as your employees' tables, or if you're a parent and the kids come first, or whatever you do in life, you put everything first before you actually put yourself first. Once you realize that when you do the work on yourself, that the universe will rise up and bless you with more opportunities, more advancement, more happiness, more peace, and all those things, because Andrea is in a state of peace, happiness, and she's shedding light on the world with that and attracting to her positive clients, positive opportunities, positive family circumstances, positive living circumstances, and financial circumstances. All these things will come to you once you do the work on yourself. So for me, Andrea, one of the things that I know that I have to master and I work on a daily basis is staying in the same routine, whether I'm in the south of France with you, or I'm in Australia, or in California or Texas.
Yes.
I wake up at the same time every single morning. I make up my bed, and I believe in incantations. A simple way to start for people is to say thank you, thank you, thank you, as they're making up their bed in the morning. This opens the universe to understanding that you are gracious, you're expressing gratitude for the blessings that you already have, and it opens up opportunity for you. Another incantation is, I am, I will, I can. Repeat that to yourself throughout the day. I am, I can, I will, or whatever order you want to put the words in. Also, look in the mirror every time you go to the restroom and say, I love you, I love you, I love you. These habits make deposits into our psyche that say, you know what, there might be some weeds there, but I'm going to plant as many flowers as possible. And those flowers are going to crowd out the weeds. Now, I have planted those seeds for so long now where it's not, an overnight success story, but it's a 5-year overnight success story since the accident. The other thing that people must do is you've got to break a sweat every single day. You do not have to run a marathon, twice a week. You do not have to work out in the gym for 2 hours. Just get into a ritual of doing the first push-up every single morning or the first sit-up. And the gratitude that you'll receive in the reward centers of your brain from sticking to 30 days or 1 week or of doing one push-up in the morning is going to be tremendous. Then you'll get to 2 push-ups. Then you'll get to 5 and 10 or whatever your goal is. But first, you've got to start with that first push-up. So I do 20 minutes of yoga, free body weight exercises, weightlifting, or running every single day. Now, some people might laugh and say, hey, you know what? That's not very much. But here's the thing.
Yeah, but wait. I mean, let's think about it. There are so many entrepreneurs who unfortunately get to the point of burnout because they won't put even 15, 20 minutes of just walking or a few push-ups or whatever, some yoga stretches. That's plenty to keep that energy flowing and to keep your brain where you need it.
Yes, because it doesn't matter what you do from time to time. The only thing that matters is what you do consistently.
You're watching Liberate Your Authentic Self with me, Dr. Andrea Pennington. Check me out on Instagram at Dr. Andrea Pennington. And now, back to the show.
You do 20 minutes of working out every single day times 365 days a year. Guess how many hours of working out that actually is. And when your physical body starts to transform, your mind and your spirit will also transform, particularly if you bring your incantation to your exercise, to your yoga practice, to your stretches, to your running. Just saying, I love you, I love you, I love you in your mind as you're running. or as you're lifting weights in the gym or doing whatever, that is a powerhouse that you're building in your mind to prepare you for whatever comes your way. When you love yourself, you can respond in such a wonderful way, a responsible, a mature way to anything that comes your way. And from that, better circumstances are guaranteed to come into your life.
Absolutely. I love
You
it.
take the high road. When you make the investment in your body, your mind, and your spirit, even if someone says something mean to you or trips you on the sidewalk, you can take the high road because you have said, I love you thousands of times before that. You know how to breathe through that challenge. I can breathe through certain challenges at the negotiation table. I can breathe through certain family challenges or business challenges, all those things, because I planted all those seeds of James loves himself. I love you, I love you, I love you, times a million. Sometimes I say it to myself 1,000 times in a day. I am, I can, I will. Whatever incantation you choose it for what you need in your life right now, and it's going to blossom.
So tell me this, James. What do you hope to achieve now that the book is out? What do you really want this book to do and your message to do going forward?
You know, my work's not done until I have helped empower 7 billion people on this life to live lives of purpose.
Wow.
Here's the bottom line. Most people just exist.
Yeah.
They go through their lives thinking that they're one vacation, one retirement, one alcoholic beverage, one drug injection, one sex act away from happiness. When you're in a state of purposefulness, Andrea, there is no need for anyone thinking that they are one act away from any type of happiness or purposefulness in their life. When you find in your core and in your psyche that which the universe has called you as your destiny, and you're doing that work, even if it's 7 days a week, it doesn't seem like work. And you're blessing the universe with your highest, greatest self, and happiness is every single day. So my work's not done until I'm on every single stage, till the book is in everybody's hands, even if I have to give it to them. And they're doing the work to find their purposeful selves. It's a feeling like no one could ever imagine. And you stop seeking material things and you stop seeking X in order to have success in your life when that happens. And it's such a rich, powerful feeling.
Wonderful.
The more I give, the more I get. The more I give, the more I get.
It is. It's a spiritual principle that people hear all the time, but it is so true.
Yes.
And it starts with giving to ourselves, giving ourselves the priority of good rest, good food, good hydration, and good positive words coming in. And then we give from the overflow. And as we give with that spirit of generosity, you're so right. It comes back to us. Well,
when you allow your light to shine, you get that light right back and it just amplifies, it multiplies, and it's exponential. You know, I used to think that shining my light upon others and helping others was finite. And I would come home and complain, oh my gosh, this person needed this from me today. And she always comes to me and she needs counseling and she's just burning me out. But I've changed my entire mindset in terms of giving. I allow my light to shine. And when I can bring somebody to a higher state, a higher level of being, breathing, understanding themselves, I get that light right back. I'll find myself walking through the airport now thinking, dear universe, please bless me with somebody whose life I can touch right now. And within 5 minutes, that person will come up to me and say, hey, how's it going today? And then they'll start talking about themselves and we're having powerful conversations. And instead of getting drained from that conversation, I'm getting energized from that conversation. So now I'm excited to give as much as I can because I get so much in return and I don't get tired.
I love it. What a beautiful shift in mindset of just being open as a vessel to be used, not looking for anything in return, knowing that the universe has got your back.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things that I love that you're doing to help us stay inspired and uplifted is your free Millionaire Monday, these weekly emails. Where do we go to get access to those?
So you can go to www.purposefulmillionaire.me, as in me, myself, and I, or www.jamesnowlin, that's Nowlin.com. Either one of those websites will take you to a link to sign up for Millionaire Mondays. We're going to be sending out encouraging quotes, stories, examples from my life to keep you encouraged on your journey to becoming more purposeful. Now, nothing's about, any kind of get-rich-quick scheme. I'm talking about the purposefulness in your heart, being a millionaire in mindset. When you're a millionaire in your mind and in your subconscious, blessings and riches are going to come your way. And you've just got to do the work, take the first step, sign up for a Millionaire Mondays, and buy the book. You can also get that on jamesonamazon.com. It's got exercises, it's got rituals that you can do to bring light into your life to find a higher purpose.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Get your copy today of The Purposeful Millionaire, 52 Rules for Creating a Life of Wealth and Happiness Now. Well, James, it is always a pleasure to connect with you. I'm so grateful that you and I are connected and that we get to have these conversations. And I'm sure we're going to be in the physical proximity at some point, sharing stages, sharing stories. I just want to wish you continued blessings in doing what you're doing. And I'm so grateful to hear that as things have grown and progressed for you, you're taking care of yourself first and making sure that you are fulfilled and renewed so that you can keep on giving. Well, it has been a pleasure, as always. Thank you so much, James.
Thank you, Andrea, for having me.
Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to follow me on Twitter @Dr. Andrea. And did you know I'm on the radio daily? Visit AmericaOutloud.com to download the Talk Radio app.